Hi, I'm Janice Laurence. I'm a 58-year-old white woman living in so-called Vancouver, Canada, on muscular tooth and Squamish territory. I am wearing a red and white Santa hat and shirt, and I'm sitting in my manual wheelchair. I'm an ambulatory wheelchair user, which means most of the time I can walk, but I have lots of different mobility aids, including a mobility scooter, power chair, a Linker walking bike, which I think you have as well, Leslie, walkers, and a car, and a partridge in a pear tree. Anyway, I have lived all my life with a neuromuscular disease called Charcot Marie Tooth, type 1A, CMT for short, not country music television, CMT. And I've so far run up a tally of 15 foot and ankle reconstructive surgeries since 1980. And I have another one coming to be announced. So I've got a lot of experience with joint pain, nerve pain, muscle pain, weakness, instability, mood issues, up and down roller coaster stuff. And I'm a educator. I've been everything from a university instructor to teaching kindergarten to grade 12 to working in Greenland on an education change project. But 5 years ago, I reinvented myself as a disabled dance artist because I'm on long-term disability from teaching and I get paid to take care of myself. And so I dance as much as possible. And you've been to my dance classes, Leslie, and I love that. And Zoom has made it really accessible to connect with people. So that's a very quick introduction.
And you dance, and I'll promote different dance classes, especially in the movement challenge Facebook group. That's where I often promote your dance classes, and that's how I know you. We've yet to meet in person.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks. Right now, I'm going to be doing 3 classes a month for All Bodies Dance Project and Connector Society. That's all on Zoom. I dance a lot in person here in Vancouver, but I will always want to meet more people to connect with from our living rooms or our spaces with the Zoom world, because I just think it's so great to just be able to explore contemporary improv together in a community-based way.
Yeah, and if you've never taken dance classes, you have some kind of prefixed idea of what it's like. Just get rid of that idea when you take Janice's class, because it's so different. It's fun, it's creative, there's therapeutic value, so they're very cool. Okay, Andrea L. Klein. I always need to say the L, right?
Not necessarily. But I'm 48 years old. I live in Southeast Tennessee in the United States. And in 1980, my middle sister and I, Cheryl, we were diagnosed with something called limb girdle muscular dystrophy. And she tragically passed away at 38 from respiratory failure. And that really kind of left me in a situation where I had a little bit of doubt as to whether our diagnosis was accurate. So around the time that I was 40 years old, I was able to participate in a free diagnostic study at the National Institutes of Health. And that's where I got a little bit more accurate diagnosis of collagen 6 congenital muscular dystrophy. And so I have been using a power wheelchair for 100% of my community mobility since the late part of 2014. And my condition, thankfully, is very slowly progressive, and I can actually still walk within rooms. I don't do a lot of walking because of the falls risk and the fatigability, factor. but I do still walk some. But a bigger factor with my neuromuscular disease is breathing muscle weakness. So I sleep with a home use ventilator at night. And sometimes during the day, I use that same machine for mouthpiece ventilation just to help give me a little extra boost. And of course, I have all kinds of other pieces of respiratory equipment that I use. But I would say about May of this year, I believe is when it was, I was diagnosed with another rare disease called celiac disease. And so honestly, I mean, I feel like I've gotten so used to living with my form of neuromuscular disease that it's not a big deal anymore. The celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease, that is what has been really harder for me. And of course, I'm a newbie with it too, so I'm sure that's a factor. But basically, I'm not able to eat gluten in foods anymore. It's not really an allergy, it's just that my small intestines, they react to the protein found in gluten and cause all kinds of gastrointestinal upset and some other symptoms like brain fog and additional fatigue, which I don't need any more fatigue on top of the neuromuscular disease. But that's really what I've been dealing with in terms of medical conditions. I do still work 30 hours a week as a business analyst in healthcare IT. And then all my spare time I devote to a 501c3 nonprofit that I founded and I serve as the president for, and it's called Breathe with MD Inc. And it's all about educating and raising awareness about respiratory involvement in neuromuscular diseases.
And that's how I know Andrea, because somebody in my rare disease, myotonic dystrophy community suggested I join the group. I think two people, Chuck Hunt and Eileen Hessing. And that's how I found the group and eventually interviewed you for a podcast. And yeah, you have people with all different kinds of neuromuscular diseases in the group, and it's great. It's a great resource.
Yeah, even post polio and a few with ALS have joined recently too, just for additional support and resources.
Yeah, I mean, you can learn so much from your peers that are going through the same kind of challenges. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And Roma, I met Roma in person, and we actually lived in the same town for a while. So, Roma, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Roma Christina Roma Leffmann. Some people know me as Roma, some as Christina. I actually, yeah, as Leslie said, I live in California. I live in Alameda, so the Bay Area. And I have ataxia from strokes I had in 2013, 14, 15, and then another thing 2015. And I like what was said that wheelchair user in the community, because yeah, I can walk, but yeah, definitely in the community, I've been solely a wheelchair user since I stopped fighting it. So since after 2015, because I stopped fighting it, I guess 2016 maybe. But yeah, I have been doing an acquired disability peer support group for just about 4 years now. But I met Leslie, I think I met you at the board fitness studio, probably dance there.
Yeah, I think a few classes we we were in. And Roma was in a podcast episode a few years ago, and she's into rock climbing. So that was that was cool.
Oh yeah, I can talk about, yeah, right now, I had a part-time job, but was stressing me out. So I actually do not have a job right now. I'm rebooting, figuring out life, but my constants and my schedule right now are actually rock climbing and cycling.
Great.
So
All
those are,
about movement.
yeah. Yeah, those are the things I'm like, yeah, I know that works and that's good for me. So I just have to figure out the rest, but it's good serves.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's dig in. I mean, you all look so festive, so I almost feel, oh, how do you cope with the holidays? You know. But I know a smile right now doesn't mean that everything's cheery all the time. So, you know, what are and I want to make this free form. I don't want to call, because we're a small group. So, what are some of the challenges that are unique during the holidays and unique because of, the health condition you have? And I'll just share, really one of the biggest ones for me is because of dysphagia, which is chewing and swallowing difficulty. And that affects, I mean, pretty much I can only eat mushy food, consistency of mashed potatoes or oatmeal. And, that's hard, and it's hard because of the respiratory problems to talk and eat at the same time. So I think that for me is the biggest challenge during the holidays is bringing my own food and being really mindful of, okay, if I'm going to engage in conversation, I am not going to like be chewing and swallowing at the same time. I won't attempt that. So who wants to share?
I can go. Celiac disease is kind of a new diagnosis for me. Thanksgiving was the first holiday that I had to deal with that. And I just found it really depressing because so much of our holidays surround traditions with foods, certain foods. And there was a particular food that I was super, super excited about. And it occurred to me a few weeks before Thanksgiving, there's no way that I can eat my mom's stuffing that she makes. It's one of my favorite things to eat for Thanksgiving. So instead of just sitting around and moping about it, I felt like I had to start researching. Are there gluten-free stuffing packages, kits, whatever? How can I try to reproduce the same type of stuffing that she makes that's gluten-free? So I began ordering things online, looking in local grocery stores, and much to my disappointment, I never could duplicate her stuffing. And of course, I knew I had to bring my own gravy for the turkey and just had a lot of general anxiety about eating other foods because gluten is an ingredient that likes to hide out in seasonings. A lot of people don't realize that there are even some meats that the process in which the meats are prepared, the brining process, and of course the seasoning, that they too have gluten. So anyway, it was just the inconvenience of having to think all of that through, the logistics. I had to bring my own portion of stuffing that I made that ended up, it was about my third attempt of making something that was similar to my mom's recipe, and it just didn't cut it. But part of what was so disappointing was other people in the family not really intentionally doing it, but sitting there talking about how good the stuffing was and how good the gravy was. And of course, I'm sitting there with, my gluten-free version of those. And I'm like, give me a break. I really would love to be eating what you're eating, but I can't. But then the other challenges that I have too are during the pandemic, I discovered that with my neuromuscular disease, I lost the ability to rise off of even an ADA height toilet. And so if friends or coworkers invite me to any sort of holiday type parties, there's, in addition to the concern about I can't get off of the toilet without someone's assistance, if I accidentally get glutened, then I'm going to need that toilet that much more, because of just the gastrointestinal upset. So that's just really kind of put a damper on the holidays for me. And I've recently missed an outing for those reasons, a holiday gathering. So I wish people would realize that when they're talking about all their favorite foods for the holidays, that they stop and think that, maybe not everyone can enjoy those anymore. And it's hard to hear people all excited about their favorite foods when maybe some of those were your own favorite foods too, and now you can't partake.
Yeah. Roma, okay, Janice.
Thanks, Andrea. Janice speaking here. I'm thinking about all the managing of grief and loss that comes up for people around the holidays, including food or barriers to accessibility like bathrooms. I think it's such a constant reminder for me to manage my own mental health and expectations, and that to find that balance between acceptance about it's not going to be what it was, but what can I add to my life, like add things, new ways of preparing food, or new ways of communicating what I need. And we have to be so good at communicating and say, well, I can come, but I need a handrail, and I need parking. Can I park in your driveway? And how many stairs are there? And like just these gifts of like, okay, what can I learn from this new reality that I go through? And sometimes they will be glorious failures. There's a joke about what kind of underwear do you wear, and it depends, just depends, right? Like there's ways to manage bathroom stuff that I didn't think about until I started talking about things with other folks with disabilities. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, yeah. Never thought about that, but it's like it's interesting, right? Yeah, and it's I really struggle with remembering all the wonderful Christmases I've had over the years and finding that appreciation, like, wow, like there's so many great memories. And I don't know what's possible this year. Like if there's snow, I'm not going anywhere, but and then try not to worry too much about the future, and just like really keeping things manageable for myself. And I'm okay living alone, and I'm okay spending Christmas alone, but it's really nice to have invitations to go out. And then if it doesn't work out, I can't go, but at least I was invited. And just to make sure I've got all my lovely food here so that I'm ready for whatever. But I was going to say, one of the things that I do to gift for my gift to myself is I decorate quite early, like the third week in November, and it's kind of like putting lovely lingerie on. nobody else might see it, but I feel good wearing it, right? I feel good having my decorations, you know, and it just brightens up everything, and maybe somebody will see it. Maybe. Very funny.
A
Anyway,
girl.
I'll let Roma talk.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, really good ideas for taking care of yourself. Roma, did you want to share some of the challenges you have during the holidays?
Yeah, I thought of a lot of stuff. So I became disabled less than 10 years ago. So it's been a lot of like, so I'm working through the acceptance and the grief stuff and the how holidays used to be. And like, I know I'm working through it, but also my family is trying to figure it out still too. And like, yeah, I have to figure out more of not accepting the ish when it's like, when, as Janice said, like I need grab bars and stuff. It's like I've had many times with people like say they hear it, but then they have an ish accommodation.
Mm.
So you'll be able to deal. No, I really no. That I knew what I asked for. Yeah, thought of that, and I know another thing with denial and figuring out is the fact that yeah, I struggle with dysphagia too, and I know in theory that I shouldn't eat food and try to talk, and I know that bad things are gonna happen with that and choking or whatnot. I know it or I don't, I do it.
It's hard.
Yeah. And, but yeah, I know another thing, apart from just the disability, figuring out the last, me and my boyfriend of 3 years broke up a couple months ago.
Oh.
So the past 3 Thanksgivings and Christmases I had with him. And so it's figuring out that, okay, what this year is like. So yeah, it's figuring that out. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm going all over the place. I was thinking of things people were mentioning, like Janice, you mentioned depends, and it's like, yeah. So I have an overactive bladder, and that a lot of time people say like, oh, the accessible bathroom is a must.
Mm.
Because of that. It's like, no, I can't hold it until I get home and go to the bathroom before. Like, that just doesn't work. And so, yeah, I found like an absolute must to wear like Depends and pads and lots of things and just be ready with all that. So I can like go out and do stuff. Like later today, I'm actually going to a Hanukkah party,
Oh, great.
and it's at a wheelchair user's home. So like whenever it's at a wheelchair user's place, I'm like, oh, okay, they'll get me. They'll know how to accommodate me. So. Because I'm only a wheelchair user, I know her and I have experience with her and that crowd being really accommodating and accepting. So, yeah.
Well, we've talked about some of the coping mechanisms that we've employed. And maybe we could drill down a little more to think about, especially since I think all of us have had these challenges for a while, you know. For me, I'm really glad that I live in a home and I'm able to take care of the home so that I can invite people over. Of course, so much of what I'm saying is pre-COVID. Now we got this universal challenge, right? Of, do you trust the people that come into your home? You can do the rapid tests, but I had COVID about a month ago. I missed Thanksgiving because I was sick, and knock on wood, it wasn't too bad. But I have been really safe, these 3 years. I had all the boosters, and I went to an event where everybody had been boosted and tested, and 10 of us got COVID. So, so thankfully nobody got too sick, but it's not fun. It's definitely not fun. But anyhow, pre-COVID, we would just do a lot more social things here. So I didn't have to worry about a toilet. I had my chairs that were comfortable. I have a walker inside. I like that expression, community. Wait, what did you say, Andrea?
Community mobility.
I love that. Did you
Yeah.
coin that?
No.
No,
I've never heard it. That's great.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
probably a medical term.
Oh,
Perhaps. I think when I got my first power chair, there was discussion of whether I would be using it indoors or just for community mobility.
I never heard that. Well, and it makes sense because I can still walk, but I like to use a walker in the house because I have osteoporosis too, and falling, that, that's just a downward spiral if you fracture or break something. But anyhow, so it's like one thing to try to educate people about your needs, and some people are going to get it, well, especially if they have their own condition. But a lot of people, they love you, they're well-intentioned, but they just don't get it. So, you could, well, there are a lot of expressions, don't beat a dead horse, right? We don't have to use those expressions, but how much do you, the effort you make to take care of yourself, like hunting and for that right recipe, which you'll find it eventually, Andrea. But, so what are the coping mechanisms have you learned? Janice?
I'm nodding a lot. I just really appreciate being able to talk about these things. I stopped buying presents for people. This is a different topic that impacts a lot of folks, but I'm really careful with my money. And I live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, Metro Vancouver in Canada. And I don't see the point in buying a bunch of stuff that people probably don't need or want. And I don't need to spend that money. And I don't need people to give me things. It's always very nice. And I'm managing to, to reframe a lot of my beliefs around what Christmas is. So Christmas can be connecting with people on Zoom, or like phoning people and checking in. And just because somebody sends me a Christmas card doesn't mean that I feel obligated to send them a Christmas card, but I will contact them and thank them. So it's all about figuring out how to feel good about how I'm participating. And a lot of people get together and do expensive things at Christmas. Like as soon as you leave your home, you're often spending money. I just turned 58 on Wednesday, and my friend and I picked up little birthday pastries from a French bakery, and we went to the liquor store and bought a bottle of wine, and we sat in a park and had some red wine and pastries, and we were like, we had such a great time, and it didn't cost as much money as sitting in a restaurant would. I mean, it was a little bit cold, but we managed. But it's like, what else can we do? We could go for walks, we can do this, we can do that. And it often is healthier than I used to drink a lot more alcohol. And I love, 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 love alcohol, but neuromuscular diseases do not love, love, love alcohol. It's not good for us, right? And so that's another thing I'm just kind of having to reframe, like asking people to do things that don't involve spending money or much money and don't involve unhealthy habits. If I'm with somebody that I know is going to have 7 glasses of wine, it's very hard for me not to have even just one, right? So it's like, all right, so picking different people to hang out with than I used to. And that's one of the benefits about being single and child-free and pet-free is I can adapt more to different environments. And I also wanted to just touch on the ableism topic that it can come up, people don't understand us, but people also say things like, well, it hurts me to walk upstairs too, or I'm slowing down too, or I have a hard time with my fingers as well, or it's like how to respond like positive, but like those teachable moments, and calling it out, because I do want there to be less ableism, and I do want there to be less barriers for everybody, but not to get so upset when it happens, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So yeah. Anyway, I'll let someone else speak. I was just thinking about those topics. Money and ableism, right? Yeah.
I have that attitude too. It's like, oh yeah, just wait. You can have some, right? I mean, we don't escape it. And I think a lot of it has to do with, one's attitude and for lack of a better word, embracing it. It is what it is. And, gratitude and focusing on, right, what you have, the new things you can do. We all lose certain abilities over time. And, but anyhow, glass half full, right?
And so what Janice was just talking about, the wine and French pastry, I thought of actually in college, I studied abroad for a semester in France. I remember I discovered the cheapest wine out there that I loved. And I also, I haven't had it in years now, but the mid foy, it's like a layered with custard, and yeah, it's a great pastry. I know it's a lot of stuff I know in dairy, and it's becoming more it's mandatory. You have to schedule it in, especially during the holidays. It was the cherry on top for some of the year, but right now I know it's per your schedule, with having food prepared in the fridge so I can just pull it out when I don't feel like cooking, and making sure to schedule time to rest and just have self-care, baths and sleeping enough and going for walks in the outdoors, whether or not there's sun out there. Yeah, so being more conscious of self-care, and also I'm learning to do less. Like I mentioned, quitting my part-time job so I have more time because I felt like I just didn't have time to take care of myself. With I mentioned had the breakup with my ex-boyfriend that was around for 3 years.
Mhm.
So like figuring out, okay, how to go and do now. And the holidays and that, it's like a lot of reboot and finding. So yeah. And even not buying gifts for others are really like um making things and like in them to people, and like so food and crafts and stuff, and it's like it reminds me of like, okay, that's how you keep busy as you get stuff. So yeah.
That's it. One of the things I hope to do this week is I have a bunch of essential oils. I was really into them for a while, doing, DIY gifts, and I haven't done it, especially since we moved up here. But I found a couple recipes for therapy dough, like Play Doh with essential oils. I
Mm.
I love tactile things.
Yeah.
So, okay, so in closing, do you want to just each talk about something during this season that, you're looking forward to? I'll share. I years ago, my partner and I had an annual tradition. We would make bagels on New Year's Eve because I'm 60 and I tired of going out on New Year's Eve probably like 20 years ago. Um, and we came up with a tradition of making bagels on New Year's Eve and then having an open house on New Year's Day. And it was wonderful. The food, the people. I mean, it was just a lovely thing. And then it got to be too much, probably a few years before COVID, because there was too many people and it fatigued me. But I'm wanting to do something for New Year's Day. So I found a nice little park here where you don't have to pay for parking. It'll be outdoors, and we're going to do like a potluck outdoors on New Year's Day. So I'm looking forward to that.
Our dogs. We have a fairly young puppy that we got this summer. Her first Christmas, and we give our dogs presents to open. So I think it's just going to be enjoyable to watch her discover Christmas and play with her new toys.
I think it's good to have things to look forward to, like a New Year's tradition, a new tradition that you're bringing in, Leslie, and having fur babies to pamper and spend time with is lovely, Andrea. I one of the things I've been doing in the last few years in December is really amping up my weight training and strength training. One is I like to be ahead of my time. So before all the resolutions start in January, I'm doing it in December because it really helps me remember that I'm so passionate about being as healthy as possible. And when I'm doing my strength training and weight training, and I have fewer in-person dance classes right now because of the holidays, so I have more time for getting back to that and all the floor exercises and just like really giving that gift to myself, because when my body is as strong as possible, then my mind gets stronger, and mindset is everything. Some days I just don't feel like doing anything. Yesterday I think I watched like 15 hours of Netflix. But today I got up at 5 and I did 4 hours of meal prep, and and I'm going to work out. I think maybe I'm going to try to use the Elenker walking bike in the snow, because apparently it is good in snow before
Wow.
the ice starts. So that kind of scares me, and it's a challenge, but I'll just go very close in my neighborhood. And I like to challenge myself physically, and I have a plan. Okay, if I get a flat tire, this is what I can do. Or if it's too slippery and I can't do it myself, I'm going to ask someone to push me. Like mentally rehearsing
Mm.
what I could do, like anticipate possible problems. Yeah, when you take a mobility aid out in public, things go wrong sometimes, but it's like having the experience with asking for help and connecting with strangers and chatting. When people see the alien curve, they're like, that's so cool. What is that? And that's such a nice way to interact with somebody rather than, oh, you poor thing.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I want one of those scooters when I'm old, right? It's like, oh, please, disability is not an age thing, right? Anyway, it's just, and it's really snowing heavily, and that's gonna feel really interesting on my face. We don't get tons of snow in Vancouver, so I'm imagining how refreshing it will be, how invigorating, and I'm rehearsing and picturing all the good things that will come of it. And I don't own boots. They don't fit over my AFOs, my ankle foot orthosis that I wear to help me walk. So, I might just put plastic bags over my feet and slide them into my shoes like I did when I was a kid. Who cares, right? So, like, I don't care. There's no shame in mobility aids. There's no shame in being disabled. But it is a shame to stay home and feel sorry for myself. So I'm
Mhm.
not going to do that. I'll end on that.
Beautiful.
Roma.
Yeah. Roma, did you want to share something?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that it's definitely essential to have the plan B set up, not just for what everyone thinks of plan B for.
Right, right.
Plan B for that. I love cycling, but I knew that I needed to put like multiple phone numbers in case I need them in my phone when I go out cycling, so like I can have my independence. And the same thing with back to Depends, like I'm sure to always wear Depends when I go cycling, because like I want to go and do stuff still, so good to have backup stuff. And really learning that having the plan B and being ready to figure out a new plan on the spot when it doesn't work. I love that with rock climbing, actually. It's like I'll start climbing one route and it's like, oh, this doesn't work. Okay, let's use part of that one, or let's use totally that one, or like, yeah, learning more like what handholds, footholds don't work, and like, oh, you have to change it up, adapt it, and like, okay, that kind of works better for you, and like learning about, yeah, what and why. And so I know I hate though when people ask me, why do you need something? It's like, I just do. Don't ask me why. Just, I need it.
Yeah.
I could hear them. Roma, this is Janice speaking. I wanted to say that we all know that our personal health is none of anybody else's business, and people often ask really intrusive questions, and I think we get better at figuring out how we want to respond. And sometimes we might feel like giving information, and sometimes we might have the perfect witty answer, or sometimes we might get angry and snap at people and forgive ourselves. And, like that is a tricky one, but nobody is entitled to our personal health information. And, like we wouldn't go up to somebody and say, how's your diabetes doing? Probably like the invisible disabilities don't get the same kind of attention that really visible disabilities do. I'm getting a few lately where people are like, oh, you don't look disabled. Even my doctor said that. And so I'm learning to think what I want to say the next time somebody says that to me, because that's an ableist comment, and just understanding what you should or shouldn't say to somebody is going to help make the world more inclusive, and for us to be more respectful and kind. And anyway, so your comment there made me think of that.
Well, I so appreciate the three of you, spending this time, and you all look so lovely. So here I am, all in blue, and I'm Jewish, and I'm going to a Hanukkah party. So my blue is, festive too, and that's a little poetry.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to comment on one more thing I know. With the food grieving that Andrea, you mentioned that, like, I know I've seen my aunt deal with that too. Like she has, I don't think she has celiac exactly, but like the step below it. And she like always has to bring her own food to everything. It's such a downer and bummer. Yeah.
But
It is.
she's taking care of herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just decided that it's not worth the risk of getting exposed to certain things. And then the other big thing that I've been dealing with is there's a lot of keto foods that are gluten-free, but not all keto foods are gluten-free. And so there's assumptions that a lot of people make, and they'll say, well, it's keto, but it's not necessarily gluten-free. So it just makes you uneasy. Sometimes I struggle to trust people when they say, oh, there's no gluten in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a new challenge to have.
That is huge, but like what a wonderful time in history now that we have access to so much information, and we all live in areas where we can get food, right? We can obtain the food that we need. And I think it's about controlling that narrative that goes on in our brain. What information is the food giving my body, right? And so it's not a treat to eat things that are bad for me. That is not a treat at all. So getting rid of that concept about I'm going to treat myself, it's treating ourselves to eat food that is very nutrient focused, with the nutrients that we need to thrive and feel our best and be vibrant. And many people don't give themselves that opportunity to learn and discover what works best for them. So yeah, and it's so much easier to get through the holidays when we feel good because of the food we're giving ourselves. So it's worth it. If we're worth it. And it's just like thinking, it's not a treat if we feel crummy afterwards. It's not, right? Like, just, control that narrative.
And that made me think of like having a glass of wine or something at the end of the day. It's like, only if it's actually a treat, only if it actually serves you as a treat. So maybe instead of that glass of wine, having really good tea or something.
Or a mocktail. I make mocktails.
Yeah.
And they can be fun. I mean, you can put a lot of creativity into it.
Mm-hmm.
And tasty. Well, ladies, I hope you find joy through the season. get some good sun in snowy, cold places. I know we have rain coming in a few days, so that's why today we want to get, I know rain is good, but got to make use of that sun when it comes out.